Ethereum will look like Solana. That is just ultimately what is going to happen here. There are going to be restaking powered networks that synergize, and the user experience of Ethereum is going to look like Solana. We purpose-built Omni for the Ethereum ecosystem and rollups. It's an Ethereum native interoperability solution. It is an independent blockchain, but it's the first blockchain that sources security from Ethereum that is not Ethereum itself. In parallel, what it's doing is all the nodes in the network are watching state updates on rollups. And so what this allows it to do is pull in kind of like a global worldview of what's going on across the Ethereum ecosystem. So you can use this to transfer messages across rollups. You can also use it to program just like natively global applications.
Welcome to the Edge Podcast. I'm DeFi Dad here with Nomadic from 4RC. Today's show spotlights the blockchain built to unite all rollups, Omni Network. In this episode, we'll cover how Omni is designed to allow all Ethereum rollups and scaling products communicate with each other via low latency and security, and how this vision will result in one united user experience for DeFi and Web3 apps built across currently fragmented rollups. But before we do, just a quick word from our sponsors who make the Edge Podcast possible. Introducing Flat Money, the first decentralized, delta-neutral FLATCOIN built on Base with sustainable yield that's completely untethered from legacy finance. Because DeFi needs an uncensorable based unit of currency. You can mint unit with RETH, which is held in the protocol's shared liquidity pool, where it's borrowed by leveraged traders. As a leveraged trader, you can deposit your margin collateral and go long on RETH. If you're trading in the perpetual futures market, you'll pay unit holders to open leverage positions. If you're holding unit, you'll earn yield from liquidations, borrow rate, and trading fees. Preserve your purchasing power and offset your exposure to crypto market volatility. Learn more at flat.money.
Restaking summer is dawning, and SWELL is expanding. Harnessing the power of RSWETH, SWELL is building the Layer 2 for liquid restaking. That means native restaking yield on a chain built with Polygon's ZK EVM technology in collaboration with AltLayer, Chainlink, and EigenDA. Look out for SWELL's Layer 2 in Swell City.
Introducing the MANTLE liquid staking protocol, MANTLE LSP, a permissionless, non-custodial ETH liquid staking protocol deployed on Ethereum L1 and governed by MANTLE. With MANTLE LSP, users can stake ETH to instantly receive METH, earn yield and accumulate rewards the longer you stake. METH is the value accumulating receipt token that will give you access to expanded yield opportunities. Stake and watch your yield grow with MANTLE LSP.
Introducing KELP DAO, the first liquid restaking platform for LSTs. With KELP, anyone can deposit STETH by Lido, ETHX by Stater, or SFRX ETH by Frax, and mint a liquid restaking token called RSWETH. With RSWETH, you can participate in your favorite DeFi platforms and get 100% of all EigenLayer points, plus KELP miles. A fresh wave of restaking is here, restaking that's liquid, rewarding, and convenient. Learn more today at kelpdao.xyz/restake.
It all started so simply with CryptoKitties and Maker on Ethereum, but quickly became complex with more applications and many chains. Today, everyone agrees UX issues are the biggest blocker standing in the way of crypto adoption. Introducing Avocado. Multi-chain UX redesigned from the ground up. The first wallet to abstract networks, accounts, and gas. One gas tank to pay transaction fees on all chains in USDC. And native access to INSTADAPP's powerful, custom DeFi strategies. Avocado, one wallet to rule all chains.
All right, let's introduce the CEO of Omni Labs, Austin King. Austin, welcome to the Edge Podcast. How are you doing?
Doing well. Appreciate you guys having me on, and yeah, looking forward to this.
When we were at ETH Denver recently, we actually went to a modular day, and just seeing all of the promising new networks that are being built and all of the tech that will be united under those communities, you can recognize the problem coming. Like, we need something that can bring this all together for us as users. So we're going to talk today all about how Omni Network solves for this problem. Before we get started, though, on that, Austin, maybe you could share a bit more about, how you got into crypto and what led you to building Omni Network.
Yeah, so I can give you the funnier version, which it maps closer to reality here. So I'll kind of start when I first got involved in crypto. First got involved when I was still studying computer science at Harvard. I had an internship over the summer where, frankly, it just didn't really require me to do anything. It was at Microsoft, so it was really easy. So I just got really into crypto over the summer. I started, mining Ethereum. I started buying Ethereum. Then I started teaching myself how to program Solidity contracts. And I remember there was one where I taught myself, it was really like a DAO. I built like a DAO where people could vote. And it just clicked in my brain, like, wow, not only is this going to be a new financial system, this is a social tool. This is how we're going to run communities at large. So it really clicked for me in my junior summer. And senior year, I had always wanted to build a company right after school. And so I committed. I was like, I'm building a crypto company. In senior year, I took a bunch of funny classes, like meditation was one class I was in. We would read papers on meditation, but we would also meditate for the first 10 minutes of class. So senior year was really far less about school for me and far more about building my first company. 2017 era, crazy. Lot of ridiculous stories there. Ended up going to Korea for a few weeks, trying to arb the kimchi premium that was going on at that time because Bitcoin was trading 30% higher over there. In addition to that, just ended up getting stuck in a desert, sleeping in the trunk of a car. There was a lot of ridiculous stuff that went on at that time. But what it ended up being manifesting in was my first company. So I actually built a company before Omni, and it was called Strata, and the network that we built was called the Interledger Network. In many ways, Omni is really the evolution of that network. The Interledger Network was an interoperability solution for L2s. So what we did was we linked together L2s at the time, but that was stuff like Lightning Network. It was not rollups. And so it was extremely performant. At points we were doing over 4,000 payments a second. We did over 10 billion before we sold it. But then, we sold it. And then a year later, I quit. We sold to Ripple, and I quit Ripple once I vested to build this company. Originally, we built a DeFi protocol. And so we built this protocol. It went really well. We hit our protocol cap of 50 mil in the first 2 days that it was out. And so we started to think okay, rollups are going to be the future of Ethereum. Back at this time, they did not have nearly as much attention and traction as they do today. But what we ended up thinking about deeply was how do we make our protocol available across these new rollups if this is the way that Ethereum is going to go? Went pretty far down this design path and then realized two things simultaneously. One, it was going to be extremely difficult to do this in a way that was secure, provided a good UX. And the second thing here was that if we built this generalized infrastructure layer, we should build it for everybody, not just for ourselves. And so that's really where Omni came from. This was about a year and a half ago that we pivoted full time to this. And we had actually met the EigenLayer team originally at Stanford Blockchain Conference. And that key mechanism, we were like, wow, we actually can create an objectively better interoperability network compared to any prior generation network before. So that's kind of the history of how I got involved in crypto and where Omni came from.
I love it. I think we should just start out. Why don't you give us your high level version, maybe of how you describe Omni Network, kind of like the elevator pitch, if you will.
Yeah. So it's an Ethereum native interoperability solution. We purpose built Omni for the Ethereum ecosystem and rollups. So often when you hear about interoperability, you'll hear about cross-chain or omni-chain. Most of the narrative has been about moving outside of the Ethereum ecosystem. There's actually a very different design space you can work under if you are building specifically for the Ethereum ecosystem. And so, that's kind of the one-liner there. It's just an interop solution purpose-built for the Ethereum ecosystem.
And then let's talk about the problem that you're addressing. I mean, it's been something that I've been witnessing and talking about a lot is the L2 roadmap kind of naturally fragments liquidity to all these different L2s. So yeah, maybe address that a little bit more in depth, and then how you guys are going about solving that. And ultimately, we kind of want to know too, what this is going to look like for the user at the end stage.
Yeah, so the Ethereum ecosystem has scaled through rollups. We're at a really exciting point where by a significant margin, rollups are doing more activity than Ethereum L1. So like the flippening of rollups, we're past that point. And that's only going to accelerate moving forward. And so, with that, the problem of fragmentation has come about because in order to move from rollup to rollup today, it's insanely difficult. You have to go find some bridge, maybe you use the wrong bridge and there's no liquidity on the other side. You have to go back and then you like wait 20 minutes with each of it's crazy. The user experience that we're putting people in the Ethereum ecosystem through. So much so that like people just tend to not do this. Often when we talk to developer teams, they just build on one rollup for now because many of these teams don't have product market fit. So it's not rational for them to try to expand their application because it takes so many engineering resources to accomplish that. Really, with Omni, what we are trying to create is a developer experience that matches the original vision of Ethereum, where Ethereum is powered by hundreds of thousands of computers across the world, but to programmers, it looks like one computer. And that makes it much easier to build applications. That makes it much less likely that they'll program in vulnerabilities. We have broken that really with the introduction of rollups. And so this just ends up putting developers in a place where they're forced to accept just a fraction of the market and like addressable user base. This is really problematic as they're hunting product market fit because you get less data points and there's less ability of you to draw in users. And so that's really ultimately what we're trying to create here with Omni is return Ethereum to the original vision where to programmers, it looks like just one single CPU. It's easy to program on it, but you get access to all the users and all the liquidity across all rollups.
So Austin, like as far as like the architecture of Omni Network, like what does this look like, I guess, a bit under the hood at a high level? Like, is this its own blockchain? How would you describe that element of Omni Network?
Yeah, it's honestly quite a novel architecture here. So it is a blockchain. It is an independent blockchain, but it's the first blockchain that sources security from Ethereum that is not Ethereum itself. So from an architectural perspective, the core like macro architecture is it's a blockchain. That's the way it works. What it's doing though is, it has its own EVM, but in parallel, what it's doing is all the nodes in the network are watching state updates on rollups. And so what this allows it to do is pull in kind of like a global worldview of what's going on across the Ethereum ecosystem. So you can use this to transfer messages across rollups. You can also use it to program just like natively global applications. I can go more into the weeds from, talking about like one message going to from one rollup to another, if that would be helpful. But from a macro perspective, it's a blockchain.
Yeah. So Austin, you recently published a white paper, and I actually did read some of it, being honest here. But what really caught me was this idea of, so cross-chain, roll-up, sub-second finality. I know like where we're at right now, you can't execute things extremely quickly yet, cross-chain between roll-ups, but you're basically claiming that you can do sub-second finality. Can you explain that? Like, is that something that like is true today? Is that kind of live in like working products that you can prove that?
So it will run with sub-second finality out the gate. With the nuance though, is that is the Omni network itself running with sub-second finality. The way that it sources truth from the rest of the ecosystem though is dependent upon the finality of the Ethereum ecosystem. And so like, how long is that? It's still 15 minutes on Ethereum L1. Ultimately, so it's like, okay, if we're waiting 15 minutes for Ethereum L1, why do we care so much about attaining sub-second finality? It shouldn't matter that much if it takes 10 seconds for the network to come to finality, if it has to wait for the 15-minute ETH L1 finality anyway. So that's V1. Where this is clearly going for the Ethereum ecosystem, though, is we will get to a point where Ethereum will look like Solana. That is just ultimately what is going to happen here. There are going to be restaking powered networks that synergize, and the user experience of Ethereum is going to look like Solana. How that happens is Omni synergizes with a new technology called pre-confirmations. There's a number of different ways that you can achieve this. Many teams are working on this. You can get this at the specific roll-up level with something like a decentralized sequencer. There's also a proposal out there for something called like based pre-confirmations, where Ethereum proposers themselves can give this. So basically what is going to happen in the Ethereum ecosystem here is these different silos of rollups are going to create the ability to offer pre-confirmations. And what this will allow Omni to do is take these pre-confirmations, which will take like a second or two to be issued. Omni will verify those pre-confirmations in less than a second and then relay that to destination domain. So ultimately, that's what I mean, like with the Solana user experience here. We will get to a point where a user can go to a website, they can use an app on Optimism, then they can swap to another website and the application can be based on Arbitrum. And the latency of relaying data and value across these different rollup platforms, where it's Omni combined with pre-confirmations, will be entirely abstracted away. It'll be so fast that users don't even have to think about the fact that there are different rollups powering this behind the scenes.
So, Austin, there's two components to this I want to dig a little deeper into that matter most for us, I think, as power users of DeFi across all these rollups, interoperability and security. So, first, with interoperability, I'm thinking of some of the other solutions that we benefit from, like Wormhole we had on the show recently, or I think of CCIP with Chainlink, or even the CCTP cross-chain transfer protocol for USDC. Not that you have to compare or differentiate from all of these, but if you can kind of share some of the highlights of, like, how does Omni differentiate from other interoperability protocols?
Yeah, great question. So really, in my view, this breaks down to like a few different generations of how we've been building these networks. The first generation was really like multi-sig based. So there's no crypto economic security here. You're just trusting validators to, operate as they say they're going to operate. If they misbehave and steal your money, there's nothing really ensuring that we're securing that behind the scenes. So that's kind of the first generation of interop problems that we've seen, or interop solutions that we've seen. The second generation is we put crypto economic security on it. So we are strongly incentivizing people with actual risk, like they're risking their capital at this point. If these node operators misbehave, they have something to lose. So this is helpful, but it is still fragile fundamentally because we have been securing these with newly issued tokens. And newly issued tokens always have a lower market cap, they're more volatile, and their liquidity is less strong. The key innovation with Omni is that we purpose-built it for the Ethereum ecosystem, and we use ETH to actually secure it. So this gives us orders of magnitude greater scalability in terms of the security we can achieve. And the asset that is securing the network is also far more liquid, and even though it's ETH, it's still volatile. It's less volatile than a new token that is launched. So that's the key thing to understand between Omni and other interoperability solutions. Omni is purpose-built for the Ethereum ecosystem, and it is secured by Ethereum. Other interoperability solutions have always used, just a multi-sig based approach, or they're layering in some level of crypto economic security, but it's with some other token that was created. The go-to-market strategy around this very much is we built a DeFi protocol and we've been in the Ethereum ecosystem for years. We wanted to scale to different rollups. We know that the Ethereum developer community has extremely high standards on security. And so we wanted to build by far the most secure interoperability solution out there. And so, day one, this is going to be the most secure interoperability solution that's operating in the market, because we can just pull a massive security budget out of Ethereum itself to secure it.
Before we talk about that more and how you draw upon the security of Ethereum, one more point with interoperability. Do you take any sort of inspiration from Cosmos? What are some of your thoughts on, what's been accomplished there, and what lessons do we draw from them in terms of, these sorts of new interoperability designs? Yeah.
So a ton of credit where it's due. Many people have been building in the interoperability space for many years. Like I said, I basically built Omni on prior generation L2s with my first company. This has been something that the industry has known for many, many years. Coming up on a decade here is a huge problem that we need to solve. So you asked specifically about Cosmos. IBC is really the leading kind of at least in terms of mindshare solution for interoperability over there. IBC does not map very well to the Ethereum ecosystem because it depends on finality of these smart contract platforms that are integrating it. We do not have that on rollups today. And so in many ways, Omni is analogous to IBC, but just purpose-built for the Ethereum ecosystem, working around the interesting nuances where rollups don't really give us finality like a Cosmos chain could out of the gate. So ton of credit where it's due to previous builders. Like, obviously, we have like studied all these different networks for many years now, and there have been a lot of really interesting designs, especially because it's such a difficult design space to build secure solutions in. But Cosmos obviously has a ton of mind share with IBC, and a ton of credit where it's due. Omni is effectively analogous to IBC for the Ethereum ecosystem, at least in terms of what the process it's trying to create, because Omni is securing the messages that are passed. It's more about the message formatting that is analogous to IBC, because IBC doesn't have its own like externally verified network. It's really just depending on the finality of the origin and destination.
Maverick Protocol provides innovative liquidity solutions for token projects to customize, automate, and incentivize their liquidity with the highest efficiency in DeFi, all powered by Maverick AMM. Why has Maverick become the first choice for all kinds of token projects, from stablecoins to LRTs? As the first dynamic distribution AMM, Maverick AMM provides automated liquidity movement modes which move your liquidity to follow price, keeping it where it does the most good. This enables Maverick-powered pools to process higher volume with lower TVL requirements, and means that Maverick supports the highest capital efficiency for LRTs like WEETH. Maverick AMM also supports non-uniform liquidity distributions, making it easy to concentrate liquidity in shapes that fit each project's individual needs. Finally, Maverick boosted positions maximize incentive efficiency for protocols looking to bootstrap their token liquidity to precise strategic areas of a liquidity pool. Token communities like Lido, Aave, Swell, ether.fi, and KELP DAO have been bootstrapping TVL and maintaining PEG using Maverick tools. Ready to build liquidity with maximal efficiency? Go to app.mav.xyz/The Edge Podcast today.
Austin, you touched on this earlier, I believe, but I believe you've been building Omni Network with the plans of utilizing EigenLayer from day one. Is that correct? And like, when did you start building Omni Network again? Because it seems like you were pretty early to, I guess, realizing the power of EigenLayer.
Yeah, so we originally met them at Stanford Blockchain Conference maybe 2 years ago. But we've really been building Omni for about a year and a half here. And one of the key insights from the beginning here was that if we used restaking, we could create a fundamentally better solution. If we could pull security out of Ethereum and use it to verify messages that were being passed across rollups, that would be able to give us security properties that no other prior generation network had been able to achieve. So we were definitely one of the first networks that really caught on to like, okay, this is a very interesting primitive that we could use to build a new type of network. And it fits extremely nicely into what we think will be an existential problem for Ethereum. So yeah, it's been in development for about a year and a half. We know the EigenLayer team quite well at this point. And it's been great building with them, and just also honestly mutually like learning from one another and giving like developer feedback throughout the process.
We saw an announcement recently that you're partnering with ether.fi, and ether.fi will be lending, I think it's $600 million worth of ETH security to Omni Network. Maybe can you like walk us through kind of what all that means and how Omni is leveraging ETH security via ether.fi? So
I want to be clear, it is not ETH that is being committed to Omni, it is ETH. It is ETH that is like natively staked into nodes. And so what does this announcement mean? It means that out of the gate, Omni is going to have a massive security budget. Really, our goal with this is to communicate to people like, hey, this truly is like the new generation of interoperability solutions. Like you can create fundamentally more secure and better products using this primitive. And so that's really what it means, is that ether.fi, I think they have about 2 bill of ETH in their protocol at this point, but they'll be committing at least 600 mil of that ETH to securing Omni out the gate here. So really it's just like day one, this thing is going to be extremely secure is the TLDR there.
Hey, while we're on restaking, Austin, how do you view the risk or risks inherent to restaking?
Yeah, so this is kind of like the Spider-Man meme, like with great power comes like great responsibility or something. Yeah, so the restaking as a primitive has received a lot of attention, both because it's extremely powerful and could do a lot for the Ethereum network, but it's also been, there have been many discussions around it possibly being destabilizing and like what risks it brings in. So this is a multi-sided marketplace, and so it's very interesting to think about the incentives of each marketplace participant. But I can give you the ABS perspective and what we care about deeply as like a network being built using restaking. Fundamentally, what is very important to us is that we can have stability in our security. So there's really three variables here. There's the price of that stability, there's the scale of that stability, and there's the volatility of it. Like, can we get a massive security budget that is like predictable and forecastable into the future? I think the main risk that comes into the like volatility side. If we are having ETH secure Omni, which is also securing other networks using restaking, it is possible that these other networks, if there's a bug that happens in it, or if it's just a more like risky design, the security budget of Omni could fall out of no fault of Omni. Like nothing could have gone wrong in the Omni network, but still the security backing it could decrease due to some other network. So there are like very strong reasons to that we, even as a network building on it, want other networks to be secured with that same capital that enables us all to reach a greater scale of security. And it also makes it cheaper for all of us. However, what the main risk that we look at is just making sure that the capital securing Omni is capital that is not securing something super degenerate. I don't think that we're at the stage of development where like more degen ABS designs are going to come out. Inevitably though, like this will be an open and permissionless platform. You know, we've all been in crypto long enough to know that people will play around with this. Like there are like interesting things that you could build. My perspective on this, I've been talking with the EigenLayer. I've been talking with the EigenLayer team a lot about this. I totally see a path to permissionless deployment of these networks. After we've been talking with the different marketplace participants, effectively what I'm seeing is quality selects for quality. In my view, there are going to be a few massive scale ABSs that come out of this, and there are going to be like large capital deployers that care about increasing their yield, but not taking more risky bets. So I think the marketplace will naturally kind of temper this, where people can still experiment with more novel, potentially risky designs, but it's not going to accrue a majority of the capital that is in the EigenLayer contracts today. It'll just kind of be limited to like the amount that the market wants to allocate towards that. And the majority of the capital that is in this system, in my view, is not going to be allocated towards a more risky network design. So this is something that is super interesting. We're going to see this play out over time here. But I am actually extremely excited because, you know, for a long time, I've been excited about how EigenLayer is going to work and what restaking will enable builders like us to do. But at the same time, there have been questions like, okay, how do you make this permissionless? And like, how do you prevent contagion risk as you do that? As I've been talking with these different marketplace participants, I think the open market will solve it, and the market incentives themselves will actually just push quality towards quality networks towards quality capital, and then still, you know, leave a section of this marketplace open for people to experiment with more risky designs. So I'm actually very excited for this because it's been an open question for a long time. And just as I'm directly talking with these teams, I can see more that I think this will work out fine when it's permissionless, despite a lot of the like concern around it.
Austin, I've seen Omni Network partnering with a bunch of teams. Well, I guess these teams are partnering with Omni Network in something called the Open Liquidity Network. Can you maybe like break down what that is, and then maybe just maybe a few names that you can mention that have partnered with this network?
You know, out the gate here, we have Injective, Mantle, Sushi, Canto, their Flow as well. Many networks have onboarded into this. And so what is the Open Liquidity Network? We actually have a somewhat, you know, definitely compared to other interoperability networks, controversial thing that we're promoting here. Historically, what you have seen is interoperability networks try to lock tokens into their network and make them a derivative of them. They try to, you know, you might see some prefix but fundamentally what has been happening, and the problem with wrap tokens at large is that they become derivatives of these interoperability networks. And so this is extremely risky if you are a massive scale asset. You know, if we're talking like multi-billion-dollar valuation, making your asset a derivative of an interop network is a terrible idea. It's actually just like simply bad engineering from my perspective. The Open Liquidity Network, we're taking a different stance on this. We're not trying to lock anybody into Omni. We're actually promoting something that intentionally does not do that. And so out the gate here, XERC20 is the EIP that we're promoting. We also drafted one of these for NFTs as well, and we'll be doing it for different types of assets and functionality that you can roll out. So what is this? XERC20 is effectively an open standard that is actually neutral, and it keeps the power in the hands of the asset issuer. No other wrap token standard does that today. It makes them cede power to the interop networks. This is a bad design because interop networks are really hard to secure. What's been really nice for us, it's like, how was I able to just list like Injective, Mantle, Flow, Sushi, Canto, like all these big networks? There's over like $7 billion of cumulative market cap that is committed to using this. It's because it's a better product. Simply, like when I have calls with these teams and I try to get them to understand, they always ask like, how does Omni like flock us in? Like what's in it for you? And what's in it for us is that like we grow the Ethereum ecosystem in like a neutral, stable way. We are the one, like for a number of these, we are going to be the ones that are actually moving the tokens around. But with XERC20, you can whitelist and blacklist bridges. You can put rate limits on it. And the people doing that are the actual asset issuers themselves. And so it's fundamentally a better product than any of these other wrap token solutions that have been out there. So this is how we want to promote the growth of the like future unified Ethereum ecosystem. No interop network, even Omni, should gain proprietary hold over the ecosystem at large. It needs to be through open standards. And so that's really the idea of the open liquidity network at large, is just driving adoption of open neutral standards that do not bring the risk of interoperability networks into our platforms themselves, into our platforms, our assets, or our dApps. Nobody should be locking themselves into interop networks specifically, because if something goes wrong, then that means that asset, that platform, or that dApp goes bust. And so that's kind of the TLDR of like, what is the open liquidity network and why we're driving that? Because we believe that like that is really the only fundamentally safe and secure way to move forward as the Ethereum ecosystem. And from a pragmatic perspective, it's simply a better product.
Austin, if you're successful in all we've discussed here and in the vision behind Omni, are there any protocols or solutions that you could imagine becoming redundant, may become redundant or unnecessary then with what you're building?
I mean, at large, I'll give you a controversial take. We're trying to deprecate bridging. This is something that is just like not fantastically well designed today. And with XERC20, we can effectively deprecate this. This whole area of the industry, like what is Omni? It is not a bridge. It is an interoperability network. You could build a bridge on top of Omni. We are very intentionally not doing that. We're actually trying to introduce something that deprecates that at large. And we can achieve this through using open standards. There's a spicy take on like something that becomes redundant. I don't think I don't think bridging is going to be front and center of people's minds in a year here. I think that we're going to make a ton of traction or like progress on this over the next year. And definitely for the end users. End users will not be thinking about bridging. We're in this crazy state of affairs today where every time we want to go use an application, it's like you have to pick up your assets and go for a 20-minute walk before you can go use them elsewhere. That is just clearly not going to be the case. And I think that's not going to be the case far sooner than other people realize.
It feels like what you're building takes the UX that, some of us have enjoyed about like a Solana and brings that to Ethereum, like brings us back to that. I mean, to be fair, I think Ethereum has been a victim of its own success, over the last several years. Like in 2018, I never imagined all the different rollups that would be built. And as excited as I've been for that, I recognize the challenges that have shown up now that we've got these like flourishing, growing communities of builders and users like Arbitrum, Optimism, ZK Sync, and so on. So yeah, is that a fair take? Like, I feel like you're kind of bringing us back to this one united experience under the umbrella of Ethereum, secured by Ethereum.
At large, that's where we're going. Ethereum is going to have a comparable UX to Solana while maintaining these core properties of decentralization and like extremely high security. That is where the space is going. We've always been like developed what we've been building based out of the research community. Like that is where the Ethereum ecosystem is heading. I think it's maybe difficult for people to see that today. But I see it quite clearly. Once Omni is running in prod, once we have pre-confirmations, it will very closely mirror the user experience of Solana. And so this to me is extremely exciting because, like you said, it has been a victim of its own success to a certain degree. It's really nice that we have given people very cheap transaction costs on L2s, but it has come at a clear cost. Really, like having an interoperability solution tie these all together that derives security from Ethereum is a fundamental key to making that happen. I will give you a slight nuance to the end of that, though. Often people talk about how fragmentation is killing Ethereum. I actually, that's not the case. It's latency that is killing Ethereum. We will never get back to a world where everything is unified on one single platform, fundamentally because it doesn't scale. This is very antithetical to rollups at large. We have all these different platforms where state is being held. What we will do, though, is get the latency down to a level that end users don't even notice this. And this is how we're going to be able to get just like world scale throughput on Ethereum. So it's not fragmentation is killing Ethereum. It's really the latency between these different platforms, which is why we built Omni with such an emphasis on performance to hit sub-second.
Austin, curious if Omni Network has any plans to expand services outside of the Ethereum network itself.
Yeah, so I think the most interesting question here is data availability solutions. So we have very promising things on the horizon here. We have EigenDA, there's Celestia, Avail also recently announced, I think, like a 27 mil raise. So the most proximate and interesting thing here is expanding the accepted infrastructure to be alternative data availability solutions. I can tell you just very frankly, we're not very interested in building cross-chain infrastructure. From the very pragmatic side of my brain, the goal here was build the best product for the biggest market. And so we can actually do that if we just think about building for that biggest market. And then the more ideological side of my brain, I build in this industry for a reason. I care deeply about actually creating an open, globally neutral platform for people across the world to use. And Ethereum today is providing the best shot at that. We need to scale it. But just transparently, that's how we're thinking about our product roadmap. Alternative DA solutions are very interesting and they will be included. Other chains, not a high priority at this time.
Really powerful stuff, Austin. I definitely could not get more on board with you with this. This is a great place, though, I think, for us to start to wrap up, guys. So I want to remind our listeners that they should first learn more about Omni Network by going to omni.network. And then they should follow Omni FDN, that stands for Omni Foundation, I believe, on Twitter. You can also follow Austin's personal Twitter account at 0xask. All of that will be in our show notes, so you can easily reference it. And then, Austin, before we go, would love to just let you close us out with what's next for Omni. When do you expect to go live on mainnet? And just thank you so much. This was a real pleasure to get to talk with you. We recently had on Paul from Pantera Capital, and I remember Omni being one of the portcos that I was really keen to have a follow-up with since then, just given how excited he was for what you're building. So just, full circle to get to finally meet you and talk about all the exciting stuff you're bringing here to Ethereum in the world of rollups.
Yeah, likewise. Appreciate it, guys. It was great being on today. To kind of close out in regards to what's up next for Omni. So we just released our white paper. Anybody who is interested in going deep into the actual technical functionality, go browse the white paper. It'll be on our Twitter. It'll also be in our docs.omni.network. On top of that, I don't know the exact day we'll roll this out, but testnet very soon here. We rolled out 2 testnets before, and this has been instrumental in really coming to this final network architecture that can achieve sub-second finality. Historically, we used other solutions. We used Ethermint, and it just couldn't hit the performance properties that we wanted. So we actually built a novel blockchain architecture that pairs really the best of Ethereum with the best of Cosmos. Final testnet coming out soon here. Mainnet, honestly, quite soon after that. I think people, probably sooner than people expect. These restaking based networks are going to be live in production quite soon. And I think people are going to be shocked at how quickly they start to make a fundamental impact on the Ethereum needs.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you're a talented founder or developer, please consider reaching out to our team at fourthrevolution.capital. And for future episodes of the Edge podcast, please check out our link tree at edge_pod.